Okay, let's wrap up 4.1. Population paradox. That's where your state's population increases, but you actually lose a representative. Remember, a paradox doesn't make sense. Like, if you work more, you expect to get paid more. Not, I work more and I get paid less. That's what's happening. A new state paradox is where a new state comes into the union and your state either gains or loses a representative. All right, let's talk about this. Copy this down right here. Today we're talking about the different forms of voting, and they have quite a few. So one of them is called polarity method of voting, where each voter votes for one candidate and you don't need to have a majority. So we're going to look at page 189. So go to page 189. So let's take a look here. If you look here and you count the votes here, Vanilla got 17 first place votes. Toffee got 11 first place. And it also got 9 first place. So you'd have to add up 11 plus 9. Okay? So if you look at their solution down here, Toffee got 11 plus 9. So they got 20. Now they had 50 voters here. And let's just run through this again. Solid Chocolate got 3 first place votes and 2 first place votes for a total of 5. But the winner here, Toffee, got 20, and that's 20 out of 50 votes. So if you did your reading, that comes to 40%. They win because they have the most first place votes, but it's not a majority. It's only 40% of all the votes that were casted. Let's talk about the next one. The Borda voting. You rank the candidates and you give points, and the ones with the most points win. Let's go to page 192. So here, on page 192, let's take a look. All right, so here they're given 4 points for every first place vote. And then 3, 2, 1, and that's the way they're doing it. All right, so if you look at Avalon, they get 2 points here. Okay, so that's 30 of them. And so let's see, first place votes, Avalon. Okay, we've got to go across this way. So Avalon has no first place votes. So that's 0 times 4. Okay, and then here, if you look, second place votes, it's 90 times 3, 3 points for the second rating, and that's 270. And you might say, well, how do you get 90 out of that? Well, I think you have to add up. Here's a second place vote for Avalon, and they have 30. So you got to add that. Here's another one, you got to add 24. Here's another one, you got to add 18. You got to add that, and then you got to add 6. And I think that comes to 90 times 3. And then if you go to third place, they have 10 third place. And third place is 2 points each. And then first place, no one voted for them for first place, so they get 0. So the total is 290. They still win. If you look at all the other ones, they still win, but I mean, they have the most points, but they don't have any first place votes, but they still win. So that's kind of ironic there. Okay? All right. So for today, you're going to be working this. We're going to watch a video as well to explain this. Let's turn our attention now to college algebra. Okay, so on this right here, what I would do is isolate the radical. So I would move this to the other side and get x plus 2. Once you do that, you want to go ahead and square both sides to get rid of the radical. Now here you have to do FOIL. So x times x is x squared. This times 2 is 4x. And then 2 times 2 is 4. Once you get this, you want to go ahead and get the x squared. Actually, it's x squared, so you want to get it equal to 0. So you want to move the 2x. That becomes a negative. So 4 minus 2 is going to give you 2x, a positive. And then that becomes a negative 7. With that 4 is going to give you a negative 3. And once you get to this point, you can either try to factor it or use the quadratic equation. I think this one right here might factor. x1, x3, plus, and a minus. And you're going to set each factor equal to 0. So x minus 1 and x plus 3. And once you set them equal to 0, you work it out. You get a positive 1 and you get a negative 3. Those are the two answers right there. Okay, let's try this one. Since this is a negative, you don't want both of these together. So you want to move one of them over here, and that's going to change to a positive. Like that. At this point, you want to go ahead and square both sides. This is going to cancel. And when you square this side, you got to do FOIL. So FOIL is this times itself, which is just going to be x minus 3. This times 2, so that's going to be plus 2 times the square root of x minus 3. And then 1 times 1 is plus 1. Once you get to this point, you want to put this by itself. So I would move the x over, that's going to become a negative x. I would move the 3 over, that becomes a plus 3. And I would move the 1 over, and that becomes a minus 1. And I believe that's right. So this is going to be x. That's a negative 6 plus 3 is a negative 3 equals the square root, or 2 square root of x minus 3. Once you get to this point, I would square both sides. You could divide by 2, but that's going to give you a fraction, so don't do that. When you square this, x times x is x squared. This times 2 is negative 6x, and then this times this is plus 9 equals 2 times 2 is 4. When you square this, you've got to multiply it by itself, and this should cancel. So you're going to get 4x minus 3. Again, you got to write it twice, or do it in your head. When you do it, 2 times 2 is 4, and then this times this breaks down to x minus 3. Now, you're going to distribute, so you're going to have x squared minus 6x. This becomes a 4x, but I'm going to move it to the other side, so that becomes a minus 4x. This is a 4 times 3 is 12, so that's a negative 12. I'm going to bring it over here, that becomes a plus 12, so that gives me 21. You can combine this and then try to do either factoring or the quadratic equation. I think it's 3 and 7. 3 and 7, right? 3 plus 7 is 10. 3 times 7 is 21. They're both negatives. So you're going to move this. You're going to set it equal to 0, and then you're going to move it. So you get 3, and then when you move that, you get 7. Those are your two answers. Okay? I'll make it a little smaller. I think I ran out of room. Today's work is right here. If you get stuck, go back and do some reading. Look at the answer. Work backwards if you can. If you can't figure it out, ask, and we'll take a look at it. All right, have a good morning.